Good morning, I'm Doc Rosebaum, and I'm going to be covering the Snooker Foster Cuber machines today. So this is a 329. In the model number, the last digit of 9 indicates a propane machine. A 0 in that position indicates an R404 machine. Today we're specifically going to be talking about propane, as that's predominantly what's in the field. The 1,000-pound are not going to be in propane model, but the smaller ones will be. So with that said, here we go. As you can see, I'm looking on the right side of the machine, and that's the control panel. Those are the intake air vents. As you can see, there's a condenser, and the top garden 3/4 inch fitting is the water inlet. And again, a 3/4 garden fitting on the bottom is the drain line. On this side also is the air inlet, again with the cleanable air vents. To dismantle the machine is quite simple. It's those 4 screws. And on the back of the machine, there are 2 screws. These 2 screws, one here, one there. And with the lid off, the sides simply lift right off. Of note, the data plate on the side indicates the voltage, the refrigerant, the high side, low side, max and minimum pressures. All right. So on the inside here, we have the water pump, and this serves double purpose of the water float and the water temperature thermistor, and that's the water pump connection. The sump tank, here is the ice curtain. They call it a skateboard in the documentation quite often, and as common with many ice machines, you just flex it to pull it out here. And this curtain, like many ice machines, acts as a bin full as well as end of ice making. The switch is right here, magnetic switch. And other components of note, there is the inlet valve, there's the dump valve right there. The condenser fan of note is controlled by the control board and is driven by the high pressure switch here. And then the hot gas valve, you can see right back here, used for defrost. The compressor, go figure. The machine does use a TXV. You can see the sensing bulb is under the gray insulation, and the dryer. Anytime we open the system for refrigeration issues, that dryer will be replaced. Of note, this machine has had its compressor replaced, and as you can see, you got the red nail polish on the service ports and back there. Just as a matter of preference, I put about a 12-inch piece of 1/4 inch copper off the suction line for the service port, it makes it much easier to try and pinch that off up here than trying to get way down in there to pinch it off. And then of course the high side service port. The engineers do not make it easy for maintenance. So the sequence of operations for this machine is as follows. When you plug the machine in from power on state, it will do an initialization check. It will drain the water tank completely and do a self-check of the board. Following that, it goes into the prep cycle. And the prep cycle will fill the water tank, and while it's filling, the inlet light will blink during the fill process. It will fill it, and once it reaches full, it will begin a 140-second countdown. You will get the 140 here, and it will count down. When there are numbers indicated here, it's seconds, and they may go up or go down, and we'll cover that as we continue. Once that is full, the 140-second countdown begins. The defrost valve is opened to equalize the system. 30 seconds later, the compressor will come on, and the water pump is started 60 seconds after that. Then at 120 seconds, it will drain, and it will complete at 140 seconds. If the ice curtain is opened, that indicates a bin full condition, and the machine will just shut down. If that is resolved, the ice falls out, and it will continue on its own. Pretty common for most of these types of ice machines. During the ice making cycle, the counter will count up until the water reaches a set temperature. Exactly what that temperature is, I'm not positive. It doesn't give me a good indication in the documentation. But once it reaches the preset temperature of the water, at that point it begins a countdown, and that countdown starts indicative of how thick the ice is going to be. So it can vary depending on what you have the thickness set at. When it gets to 0, it will go into defrost mode. And as most ice machines in defrost mode, the hot gas valve will open. That hot gas will go to the evaporator, and the ice should sheet off the evaporator, knocking the curtain open, indicating that defrost is complete, and the cycle will continue. Of note, the water inlet light, its indicators is blinking is filling, and solid is the water is full. A little counterintuitive to me, but just keep in mind, if that light is solid, it indicates the sump is full and no water is being filled. If it's blinking, that means the sump is not full and water should be going into the system. And then as you can see, you've got the list of faults here. So the error codes listed, the EO1 is simply bin full. I know it says fault, but it really is just the bin full. The curtain is open. So if it's not full and that curtain is closed and you're getting that error, then that switch is probably faulty. So the EO3, ice unload overtime. Unload just means it took too long to defrost. And that just means that curtain wasn't opened within the designated time to make the ice. It will do this, it will check this 3 times before it gives you the EO3. Needless to say, things that might cause this are typically either refrigeration or water. Obviously, if there's no water going over the evaporator, it's not going to have ice to make. And of course, if the refrigeration is not working, compressor is faulty, what have you, the hot gas valve stuck open, those kinds of things. again, you will not get the ice to open that curtain and indicate that it's done making ice. The EO4, this is when the evaporator, when the condenser temperature falls between, in the documentation says 68 to 70 Celsius, which is 154.4 degrees to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. When it falls into that is when you'll get this error. Typically that would be condenser fan issue. So that would be the first thing I would check on that. The EO5, water shortage fault. Again, pretty common error for ice machines. I think the number one error I see with ice machines is water related. So with this one, it's going to check every 30 minutes to see if it can fill. If it can't, it will give you a EO5 error, and every 30 minutes it'll try that again until 10 hours later. Then it just gives up. The EO6 overpressure fault, it says the vertical type doesn't have this such fault. I haven't seen it on these machines. Again, the vertical evaporator, which is what these are. But I can't see why it wouldn't have that, because it does have the high pressure switch on the high side. That high pressure switch is really to control the condenser fan. That's its number one function, really. But if you get this, it just means you're getting too much pressure. Again, the condenser fan would be the first thing I would check on that. And then the next errors are checking the sensors. The EO7 and EO8 are the condenser sensor is either open or shorted, and then the EO9, EO10 is the evaporator sensor is either open or shorted. And then E11, refrigeration system fault. Again, it states that the vertical machines don't have this, and you can see it's not even listed on this machine. E11 and E13 aren't even listed in here, but it is in the documentation that is accompanying this video, so I'll cover them. Again, it's saying that the water temp is higher than the 5 degrees Celsius within 7 minutes of startup, meaning it's not seeing refrigeration. That water isn't coming cool like it should. And again, it can be a myriad of things. The first thing we'll cover that in a moment. And then E13, again, in my document that I'm looking at and is accompanied, which is a control software instruction, addresses this error, and it's water level switch, water pump, drain pump fault. It states that that error isn't on this machine.